I never expected her to remember my name, let alone the way I took my tea. It started with something ordinary, like most things that don't stay that way. I used to go over to my friend Hamza's place in the evenings. Not every day, just when my own apartment got too quiet, which was often. His house was louder, TV always on, someone always in the kitchen, doors opening and closing like punctuation. It felt lived in. She was just part of that background at first. Tea, she'd ask from the kitchen, not really looking at me. Yes, sure, I'd say, every time, even when I didn't want any. The first few weeks, she didn't say much else. Just small things. Careful, it's hot. Or you boys will leave the cups here again. I know it. Said without irritation. Just observation. I didn't think about her much back then. Not really. But I remember the day she noticed. Hamza wasn't home yet. I was sitting in the living room, scrolling through nothing, waiting longer than I meant to. I should have left, honestly. But I didn't. She came in, drying her hands on the edge of her dupatta, paused when she saw me. You're still here. Yeah, he said he's on the way. She nodded like that explained something bigger. Then she walked past me, stopped near the table, picked up a cup from earlier, and looked at it for a second. You don't drink it when it gets cold. I blinked. Saw the tea, she said, almost half to herself. You leave it halfway. I didn't know what to say to that. It wasn't a complaint, just something she'd noticed. Yeah, I guess, I muttered. The next time she handed me a cup, it was smaller. I'll bring more if you finish it, she said, like it was nothing. I think that's when something shifted. Not suddenly, just enough to make me aware of her presence in a different way. After that, I started noticing things too. The way she stood near the window when she talked on the phone, voice softer, like she didn't want the words to fully exist. The way she'd press her thumb against the rim of a cup before handing it over, like checking the heat for someone else. And sometimes when she laughed at something on TV, it came out late, like she was catching up to the moment instead of living in it. I don't know when I started staying a little longer than necessary, or why I stopped texting other people back as quickly when I was there. It wasn't like anything happened. Not really, just small things. Once, when I got up to leave, I couldn't find my phone. I checked my pockets twice, then the couch. It's here, she said from behind me, holding it out. Our fingers brushed for half a second. Nothing dramatic. But she didn't pull her hand away immediately. Neither did I. Then she did. You should keep it with you, she said, a little quieter than usual. Yeah, I left right after that. Or tried to. At the door, I turned back, not sure why. She was already walking toward the kitchen again, like the moment had closed for her. Good night, I said. She paused, just slightly, without turning around. Good night. There was something unfinished in the way she said it. Or maybe I imagined it. That night, I didn't go back to Hamza's. Didn't text him either. I sat in my apartment, the silence louder than usual, my phone in my hand for no reason. I opened a message, typed something, erased it. Did that a few times. Then I noticed something. A new message. Not from Hamza. From her. Just my name. Nothing else. And I stared at it longer than I should have, like it was asking me something I wasn't ready to answer. I didn't reply right away. I read her message, just my name, over and over like there was something hidden behind it. A second meaning. A tone I couldn't hear. I typed yes, then deleted it. Typed, did you need something? Deleted that too. In the end, I just locked my phone and left it on the table like it might solve itself. It didn't. The next time I went over, Hamza was home. Loud as usual, complaining about work, tossing his bag on the couch like it had personally offended him. Everything felt normal. Too normal. She was in the kitchen. I could hear the kettle before I saw her. That steady, building sound. I didn't realize I'd started recognizing it until that moment. I stood in the doorway, not fully inside. Tea? She asked without turning. Yeah. She poured it into the same, smaller cup. Didn't look at me when she handed it over. But her fingers brushed mine again, this time quicker, like she'd meant to avoid it. I wanted to say something about the message. I didn't. Hamza was talking in the other room, calling my name, asking something I didn't catch. I answered anyway. Something automatic. I stayed longer than usual that night. Even after Hamza disappeared into his room to take a call. It left just the two of us. She was wiping the counter, slower than necessary. I sat at the table, the tea cooling in my hands again. You didn't reply, she said, like she was commenting on the weather. I looked up. I wasn't sure what to say. She nodded once. Not offended, just confirming something to herself. I didn't know what to write either, she added, almost under her breath. Felt strange after sending it. Why did you? I asked. That made her pause. For a second, I thought she wouldn't answer. She picked up a spoon, adjusted it beside the sink, then leaned back against the counter. I saw you leave, she said. The other night. You looked like you forgot something. I let out a small breath. Yeah, my phone. No. She shook her head slightly. Not that. Silence stretched between us. Not uncomfortable, just heavy. I looked down at the tea, still half full. You always leave things unfinished, she said, softer now. Drinks. Sentences. I almost smiled. Didn't realize it was that obvious. It's not, she said. I just noticed things. I didn't ask why. Instead, I found myself saying something I hadn't planned. I used to text people a lot, I said. Just random stuff. Didn't matter who. Just to feel like, I don't know. Someone would answer. She finished for me. Yeah. She didn't respond right away. Just looked at me for a second longer than usual, then looked away. I used to do that too, she said quietly. I glanced up. Before. I asked, not sure what I meant exactly. She gave a small, almost amused exhale. Before everything got quieter, she didn't explain. She didn't have to. I nodded like I understood, even though I probably didn't. Hamza's voice echoed faintly from his room. Something about a game, or food, or both. Neither of us moved. The kettle clicked softly behind her, cooling down. I should go, I said, but I didn't stand up. She didn't tell me to stay. But she didn't move either. Instead, she walked over, reached for my cup, then stopped when she realized I was still holding it. Her fingers hovered for a second before lightly touching the side of my hand. Finish it, she said. It wasn't about the tea. I looked at her just for a moment, and something in her expression shifted. Not inviting, not rejecting. Just there. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. After that night, something changed. Not in a way you could point to, just small shifts. Timing. Distance. I stopped going over as often. Not on purpose. At least, that's what I told myself. Work, sleep, random excuses that sounded reasonable when I said them out loud. But the truth was simpler. I didn't trust the quiet anymore. Not the kind that settled when it was just the two of us. Hamza noticed before I expected him to. Bro, you disappeared, he said one evening over a voice note. My mom asked about you too. I replayed that part twice. My mom asked about you too. I didn't reply to that message either. A few days later, I went back. Late. Later than usual. The house felt different at that hour. TV off, lights dimmed, everything quieter in a way that made your footsteps feel louder than they were. Hamza wasn't home. I realized that after I'd already knocked. She opened the door halfway, like she wasn't expecting anyone. For a second, neither of us spoke. Oh, she said softly. Yeah. I thought, he said. I stopped. That wasn't true. I hadn't checked. She nodded anyway, like she understood the half-sentence. He's not home. Right. I should have left. I didn't. She stepped aside, just enough. Not inviting. Not refusing. I walked in. The kettle was already on. That sound again. Low, steady. Familiar in a way that felt earned. You can sit, she said, moving toward the kitchen. I stayed near the doorway this time. Didn't fully settle in. I won't stay long, I said. She didn't respond to that. Just poured the tea. Same cup. Always the same now. When she handed it to me, her fingers didn't touch mine this time. I noticed that. More than I should have. We didn't talk much at first. Just small things. Work okay? Yeah. Still up late. Most nights. Her answers were shorter now. Careful. Like she was measuring something. Or avoiding it. I sat at the table, watching the steam fade from the cup. Didn't drink. You've been busy, she said after a while. It wasn't a question. Kind of. She nodded, looking at the counter instead of me. That's good. It didn't sound like she meant it. A sound from outside, someone passing the gate, voices faint then gone. For a moment, I thought I heard Hamza. I straightened slightly. She noticed. He won't be back soon, she said. Something in the way she said it made me look up. Not reassurance. Not warning. Just awareness. I shouldn't have texted you, she said suddenly. The words landed quietly, but they stayed. I set the cup down. Why? She took a breath, then let it out slower than usual. Because it changes things. What things? She looked at me then. Properly this time. You coming here? Sitting like this. Waiting for, I don't know what. I opened my mouth, then closed it again. Because I didn't know either. The kettle clicked off behind her. Neither of us moved to turn it off this time. The silence stretched. Longer than before. Not empty. Just full of things neither of us said. I stood up. I should go. This time I meant it. I walked toward the door. Slow. Like I was giving something a chance to stop me. She didn't. But when I reached for the handle, wait. I froze. Her voice wasn't loud. Just enough. I turned. She had stepped closer. Not all the way. Just enough that I could see the hesitation in her face. In her hands. I didn't mean, she started then stopped. I took a step back toward her. I don't know why. Maybe to hear the rest. Maybe because I already knew. We were close now. Closer than we'd been before. Too close for this to still be nothing. Her eyes dropped for a second to my mouth, maybe. We're just away. I felt it. That shift. That moment where something either happens or doesn't. I could have said something. Anything. Instead, I just stood there. Waiting. She exhaled softly, almost a whisper. Then stepped back. Just enough. And that was it. It didn't happen all at once. The distance, I mean. It came in small decisions that felt reasonable at the time. I stopped staying late. She stopped texting first. Hamza started being around more, like the space had corrected itself. Everything went back to how it was supposed to be, except it didn't feel that way anymore. One evening, Hamza dragged me out for a walk. Said he needed air, or food, or both. We ended up near the small park at the end of the street. The one with the broken bench that everyone still used anyway. We sat there, talking about nothing. Work. Some random video he'd seen. Someone getting engaged. I nodded in the right places. You've been weird, he said suddenly. I blinked. What? You don't come over like before. I've just been busy. He gave me a look. Not convinced. Not pushing either. Emmy asked again. He added, more casually this time. Something in my chest tightened. Small, but there. What did you say? I asked. That you're alive, he shrugged. Why? Nothing. He let it go. But I didn't. When I went back that night, it wasn't planned. Hamza had gone to meet someone. Said he'd be late. I stood outside their door longer than I should have. Then knocked. She opened it slower this time. Like she already knew it was me. You're alone, she said. Not a question. Yeah. A pause. Then she stepped aside. No TV. No background noise. Just the faint hum of something electrical in the kettle, already starting up again. I didn't sit this time. Stayed standing near the table, hands in my pockets, like I wasn't sure how long I'd be there. She noticed. You can sit, she said. I'm okay. She nodded, but her eyes lingered for a second longer than usual. You stopped coming. There it was. I exhaled lightly. Yeah. Why? Simple question. No simple answer. I looked at the counter instead of her. Didn't want to make things strange. A quiet sound left her. Not quite a laugh. They're already strange. I looked up then. She was leaning against the counter, arms crossed loosely, not defensive, just holding herself in place. For you, I asked. For both of us. Silence again. But this one felt different. Thinner. Like it could break. I saw you with someone, she said after a moment. The words caught me off guard. What? A few days ago. Outside. She shrugged slightly. A girl. Oh. I let out a breath. Just a friend. She nodded too quickly. Of course. But her gaze had already shifted away. Something in that tightened. You thought. I started then stopped. She didn't answer. Didn't need to. I don't know what this is, I said, quieter now. She looked back at me. Neither did I. That was the problem. I come here and it feels... I hesitated, searching for something that didn't sound wrong. Different. Her expression softened. Just a little. Different isn't always good. No, I said. But it's not always bad either. That stayed between us for a second. Then, you're his friend, she said. There it was. Not loud. Not accusing. Just true. I know. You're young. I know. And she stopped. I waited. She didn't finish. The kettle clicked off. Neither of us moved. I took a step closer. Slow, careful, like I was giving her time to stop me. She didn't, but her breathing changed. Slightly. That was enough. I shouldn't be noticing these things, she said, almost to herself. When you come, when you don't. Her voice was steady, but her hands weren't. I was close enough to see that now. Then don't, I said quietly. It sounded simpler than it was. She looked at me then, really looked, and for a second, everything else fell away. The house, the noise, the reasons, just that space between us. Too small now, too clear. If we don't stop this, she said, trailing off. I didn't move, didn't step back either. Just stood there, close enough to feel the warmth of her presence, the hesitation in it. Waiting. For her to finish. For myself to say something. For something to break. She swallowed, her voice softer now. What do you think happens next? I didn't answer her. Not because I didn't have one, but because anything I said would have made it real. And once it was real, there wasn't a version of it that stayed small. So I just stood there, close enough to feel it, far enough to pretend I still had a choice. She held my gaze for a second longer, like she was waiting for something to land. Then something in her expression shifted. Not disappointment, not relief either, just decision. She stepped back, not abruptly, not dramatically, just enough. That's what I thought, she said quietly. I didn't ask what she meant. I think I understood. After that night, she changed. Not completely, just in ways that made everything else feel edited. When I came over, she stayed in the kitchen longer. If Hamza called her, she answered from another room. The tea was still there, but placed on the table instead of handed to me. No accidental touches. No lingering pauses. Just clean edges. It should have made things easier. It didn't. A week later, I showed up and found someone else sitting in my place. A man, late 40s, maybe early 50s. Familiar in a way I couldn't place at first. They were talking quietly. Not tense. Not warm either. Just practiced. Hamza waved me in like nothing was different. That's my dad, he said, like it was obvious. Right? Of course. I nodded, said hello, shook his hand. Try not to think about why no one had mentioned he was coming back. Or why she hadn't. She didn't look at me when I walked in. Didn't need to. I stayed for less than 10 minutes. Long enough to feel out of place. Long enough to realize something had shifted that had nothing to do with me. And everything to do with us. When I left, I didn't say goodbye to her. I'm not sure she noticed. After that, I stopped going. Not suddenly. Just less. Every time I thought about it, something in me hesitated. A small resistance I couldn't explain without saying too much. Hamza texted a few times. Where are you? Alive. Amy made your weird small tea again. I stared at that one longer than I should have. Didn't reply. Days passed. Then a week. I told myself it was fine. That this was how it was supposed to end. Quietly, without anything breaking. But it didn't feel like an ending. More like something had been interrupted. Paused mid-thought. One night, I picked up my phone and opened her chat. Still just that one message at the top. My name. I typed something. Are you okay? Too simple. Deleted. I didn't mean to. Stop there. Deleted again. I sat with it for a while. The blinking cursor. The empty space where something should have been. I thought about knocking on their door. Just once. Just to see. I didn't. The next evening, I passed by their street without meaning to. Or maybe I did. The lights were on. The gates slightly open. Everything looked exactly the same. I slowed down. Then kept walking. I didn't feel heartbroken. That would have been easier. I felt paused. Like life had started a sentence and then forgot to finish it. And I wasn't sure if I was supposed to wait or walk away before it ever did. I didn't plan to go back. That's the part one keep coming back to, like it explains something. It doesn't. It was late. Not too late. Just that hour where the street quiets down, but lights are still on inside people's homes. I told myself I was just walking. Needed air. Nothing more. But my steps slowed when I reached their gate. Still slightly open. Like before, I stood there longer than I should have. Then pushed it just enough to make it creak. I didn't knock. The door was already ajar. And for a second, I thought about turning back. Ending it there clean. No more questions. But then I heard the kettle. Lo, familiar. And that was enough. She was in the kitchen. Same place. Same posture, back slightly turned, one hand resting near the counter like she'd paused mid-task. She didn't look surprised when she saw me. "You're here," she said. Not a question. "Yeah." I stayed near the doorway. Didn't step in fully. Didn't trust myself to. There was a pause. Not awkward. Just full. "I thought you stopped coming," she said. "I did." "Then why? I don't know." I cut in a little too quickly. She nodded, like that answer made more sense than anything else. The kettle clicked softly. She turned it off this time. Poured the tea. 2 cups. She hesitated for a second before handing mine to me. Our fingers didn't touch. Not this time. I noticed that more than I expected. We didn't sit. Just stood there, holding something warm between us, like it gave us a reason to stay. "I saw him," I said. She didn't ask who. "Yeah." Another pause. "It's not what you think," she added. I didn't think anything. That wasn't true. But it was easier. She leaned back slightly against the counter, arms loosely crossed again. Not guarded, just steadying herself. "He comes and goes," she said. "Always has." I nodded. Didn't ask more. Because it wasn't really about him. "I almost texted you," she said after a moment. I looked up. "Why didn't you?" She gave a small, tired smile. "Because I didn't know what I was allowed to say." That landed somewhere deeper than I expected. "Same," I said. Silence again. But this time, it didn't feel like avoidance. It felt like something waiting. "I missed it," I said before I could stop myself. She looked at me. "The tea?" she asked quietly. I shook my head. She didn't smile at that. Didn't look away either. Just held the moment there, steady. "You shouldn't," she said. "I know. You're his friend. I know. And you don't have to explain," I said softly. Because I already understood enough. The lines. The weight of them. The way something simple could turn into something that stayed longer than it should. I took a small step closer. Not enough to cross anything. Just enough to be honest about where I was standing. She didn't move away. But she didn't close the distance either. We stayed there. In between. "I don't think this goes anywhere," she said. Her voice didn't shake. It didn't need to. I nodded slowly. "Yeah." Another breath. "And I don't think I want it to," she added. That one took a second longer to settle. Not because it hurt, but because it was true. We stood there for a while after that. No urgency. No need to fix it. Just understanding. The kind that comes a little too late. When I turned to leave, it felt different this time. Not unfinished. Just decided. "Good night," I said. She nodded. Then, after a small pause, "Okay." It wasn't agreement. Or closure. Just something human. Something enough. And I think that's why I finally left without looking back. Time didn't fix anything. It just rearranged it. I stopped counting the days after a while. Work filled in the gaps. New routines, different hours. I started going out more. Not in a loud way, just enough to not sit with my phone waiting for something that wasn't coming. Hamza and I still talked. Less often. Shorter messages. "You alive?" "Yeah. Come over sometime." I always said soon. I didn't go. It was months later when I saw her again. Not at the house. At the small park down the street. The same one. The broken bench still there, like it had decided not to leave either. I almost didn't recognize her at first. She was sitting alone, a thermos beside her, looking out at nothing in particular. Not distracted. Just still. I could have kept walking. Probably should have. But something in me slowed down before I made the decision. And then I was already there. "You still don't drink it when it gets cold." The words came out before I could stop them. She looked up. For a second, there was that same pause from before, the kind that holds recognition without rushing it. Then she smiled. Small. Real. "You still notice things," she said. I sat down, leaving space between us. Not too much. Just enough to feel intentional. The air was quiet in that familiar way. No tension this time. Just absence of it. "How have you been?" she asked. "Okay." "You look it." Almost laughed. "That's new." She shrugged lightly. "People change." We let that sit. She poured tea into the lid of the thermos, then held it out slightly. A small pause. This time our fingers brushed. Neither of us pulled away too quickly. But we didn't linger either. "I don't go out much at night anymore," she said after a while. "Feels different now." "Better." She thought about it. "Quieter," she said. I nodded. I understood that. We didn't talk about before. Not directly. But it was there, in the spaces between sentences. in the way we didn't avoid each other's eyes anymore, in how nothing felt unfinished, just something that had happened and settled. I'm moved, I said. She looked at me. I know. That surprised me. Hamza mentioned it, she added. Yeah. A pause. Closer, she asked. I shook my head. Other side of the city. She nodded slowly. Not disappointment. Just taking note. The sun had started to dip lower by then, stretching shadows across the ground. The bench felt less broken in that light. Or maybe it was just perspective. I make my tea differently now, she said suddenly. Oh, stronger. Less sugar. I smiled a little. I finish mine now. She glanced at the cup in my hand. Empty. Good, she said. We sat there a while longer. No ruse. No need to define anything. Just two people who had once stood too close to something and then stepped back in time. When I stood to leave, it didn't feel like leaving something behind. Just continuing. It was good to see you, I said. She nodded. You too. A small pause. Then take care. Yeah. I walked a few steps, then stopped. Turned back slightly. She was already pouring herself another cup, the steam rising in that quiet, familiar way. For a second, it felt like nothing had changed. But it had. We had. And somehow, that made it easier. Not perfect. Not the kind of story people tell out loud. But steady. Warm in a quiet way. I didn't go back to the bench after that. Didn't need to. Some things don't stay in places. They stay in you. And every now and then, when my tea starts to go cold, I catch myself finishing it anyway. Not because I have to, just because somewhere along the way, I learned how not to leave things unfinished.